Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta
Vrinda ki jai.
Shri Antardip Mayapur Samantadip Gauramadip Madhudip Kuladip Ritudip Janadip Motadumadip Rujavip Patmaka Srinathip Dham ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dwadasha Vanatmaka Shri Braj Manda ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Ganga Yamuna Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shrimati Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Paramasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopishwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakraji ki jai. Shri Chitramando ki jai. Shri Sringa Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Pravar Shri Parama Maharaj ki jai. Charidam Chari Sampradaya Charya Charya ki jai. Akara Mat Raj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai. Shri Keshav Ji Gaudiya Mat ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Manta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
What did you sing today?
We sang Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya, Ebar Kuruna Koro, Nitai, Jai Jai Nityananda Rani Kumar,
Jari Goranga Nahito.
And Radha Krishna Paramora, and
Jai Radhe Jai. No, Radhe Jai Jai.
Radhe Jai Jai Madhav Jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Yeah, that's really very much the wealth of our Gaudiya Sampradaya is this daily kirtan. Srila Prabhupada didn't really introduce like daily kirtan, singing of many songs. It was not in the schedule. Only it would be like Jaya Radha Madhava sung before the class. You know, that's mostly just Hare Krishna kirtan. And I know that part of the reason for that was, of course, in the very beginning, Srila Prabhupada didn't want to overload the devotees with lots of Bengali and Sanskrit and all that. Definitely.
I was just listening to a class this morning, and Gurudev had like 5 or 6 people sing different bhajans before class.
Yes. Yes. You know, the thing is, even as I was traveling around all those years, and a lot of times there wouldn't be capable devotees to even play the instruments, especially mridanga. I ended up playing mridanga most of the time. But then when there was a place where a devotee knew how to play mridanga, or even a little bit, that was a relief for me. The same songs. Gauranga Balite Habe, Ohe Vaishnava Thakur, Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya, or Gurudev, what is it? Kripa Koroke, something like that, you know. But they were singing exactly the same songs. And so I like to break it up. But actually what I started to do, rather than going through the krama, the sequence, which is done like 15, 20 minutes, like a mini lecture before the song, and then I would sing the song, like that. And then go into Mahamantra and do actual kirtan. Because, you know, our visit would be, they wouldn't get that many visits, you know, month after month. They wouldn't receive so many visits. Later on, especially in Russia, there were a lot of preachers going. So they're getting pretty more regular visits. But what I wanted to do was to give them more of an experience of us with a combination. Because Srila Prabhupada, as I said, you know, he understood that in the West, main thing is they have to hear Hare Krishna Kirtan and Katha. Those two things have to be mostly emphasized. And then gradually, as the devotees will advance more, then that will naturally come. And that's what's actually happened through Gurudev, particularly Larti, Dava, Nalalita Loka. And naturally, we memorize that because we're singing it every day. But I made a special effort because it's just my nature. I wanted to understand what are we singing, you know? And And then when I was reading also the Bhagavatam in Sanskrit or Bengali with Chaitanya Charitamrita or the songs, the Bengali songbook, I would also make an effort to understand at all. But you can understand as you're singing the song, not just like brain change up, that here's the Bengali, here's the English, but actually understanding the Bengali as you're singing it. And that makes a very big difference because all the bhavs and all the moods are there in the acharya's, compositions. And when you literally read them and then you also understand what you're singing, makes a very big difference. But it takes effort.
You explained a few months ago, you went through the Tulsi prayers and Hariharaya, and that has made me so much more conscious as we're singing these things.
Oh, in the
class going through those two songs was so nice.
Yes. Hariharai, I've always had some special mood for that song.
I can tell when we start singing it.
Well, it's just, I sang it in my own way. And actually, when I'm at Rup Sanatan, they sing Hariharai in the evening, just like we do, after the Tulsi. But I just became overwhelmed by the mood of that kirtan. And I didn't have it perfectly memorized yet, but I knew, usually the devotees, they never memorize any of the verses after Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Das, and then the rest of the song, they don't memorize, even after years and years, But I realized how important Narottam Das Thakur's song is, because he's expanded upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's own verse. Because Mahaprabhu himself sang 2 lines. You know what they are? Say the whole line.
I can only do it if I sing.
Nama Krishna. No. The Yadavaya is added by Narottam Das Thakur. First line, Hariharai Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. That's what Mahaprabhu himself sang. Right? So Narottam Das Thakur took those 2 lines and then he expanded that into the entire song. And basically, you know what it is? I kind of call it the marching song of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. The marching song.
You see Narottam going like this?
Because done by offering prayers to their lotus feet. Hoite Vignanash Abhishta Puran. That means all obstacles are removed, and Abhishta Puran means your deepest heart's desires are fulfilled. Can you imagine the power of worshipping the lotus feet of the 6 Goswamis, that will take place in your spiritual life? Then he goes for Muitaro of the servant of those 6 Goswamis. And the dust of their lotus feet are my panchagras, 5 types of sustenance. And 5 types, usually it also is connected with 5 life airs, the pranas, the 5 different prana that are moving within the body. Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. Sevi means this servant. Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. In the association of the bhaktas, I want to always live. I want to always, Bhakta Sanivas means I want to always reside within the association of the servants of those 6 Goswamis. Then he says, Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilas. My desire, birth after birth, is this. Very exclusive. And in the Gaudiya Kirtans, they extend that sometimes very long. Mora e Maner e Abilas, Maner e Abilas, and then they sing so many things. What is their desire? What is our desire? Maner e Abilas. My mind desires this. And then H.I. Gosai Jabe Braje Koilovas. These 6 Goswamis went to Vrindavan and they began to perform Brajvas, living in Braj. Chakavarti Thakur and all. They revealed the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna within this world, which was never revealed before. Then finally, Anande Bola Hari. This is like a rejoicing, because that can be repeated many times. Anande Bola Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. And everybody raises their hand. Ananda Bola Hari Bhaja Vrindavan. Worship Vrindavan. Perform bhajan with great ananda. Chant the names of Hari. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majaya Man. With mind completely absorbed in Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada, in the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Vaishnavas. Then he ends the song, same line, Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade, Padma Koyat. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade, Pada Padma Kori Ash, Pada Padma, their lotus feet. Kori Ash, I am aspiring for taking shelter of the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Vaishnavas. Kori Ash, Nam Sankirtan Koi Narottamadas. See, that's why I say it's the marching song. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukam Kuroti Vachalam Pangam Langayati Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataram Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabhadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Chise Nama Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayani Kalo Kalmashanashaya Janava Padai Nama Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakan Shanagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vrindai Tulsi Debai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My Dandavat pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable Diksha and Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa, Astatara Sata Shri Srila, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada, Nitya Lila Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa Stotara Sata Shri Srila, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishto Vishnupad Paramahansa, Astatara Sata Shri Srila, Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And my Dandavat pranams to the lotus feet of all my Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, And my Dandavat pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavis. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami is telling that the pure devotees, he's quoting Lord Kapila Dev, who's telling to his mother Devahuti, that those who are my pure devotees and who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation, they have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything, except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. So does Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Sikh Shastakam prayers, does he mention something similar to this? No? No? Yes. Nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama janmani janmanishvare bhavatad bhaktir ahoituki tvai. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is shown here that he does not want dharma, artha, kam, and even moksha. He wants only what? Eternal, unmotivated service, ahoituki bhakti. He says, Mama janmani janmanishvare. Janmani janmani, it means birth after birth. Just like we sang in Narottam Das Thakur's song, Janme Janme. So that means no desire for liberation, to be liberated from the material world. But there is one demand, there is one desire, there is one prayer, that Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoituki Tvai. I want pure, unmotivated bhakti to you, O Krishna. So when someone has this kind of mood, then it will actually start to become pure devotional service. But if there are other factors that are motivating, it is not in the category of pure bhakti. It is mixed. So, and even to the extent that the devotee is not even demanding to have the opportunity to live on the same planet with the Lord, to have the direct personal association of the Lord, to have the same opulences as the Lord, to have the same bodily features as the Lord. So he even doesn't want them. He'll accept them. If Krishna wants him to accept that, he'll accept that. But he's not ever praying for that. This is the astonishing thing. So we have to conclude from this that pure devotional service is full of nectar, beyond any of the types of liberation even. This is what we have to understand, and that's coming now in the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service. We're going to read that list. So a devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, he does not even want any of the 5 kinds of liberation. He is satisfied simply by discharging loving service to the Lord. That is the characteristic of pure devotion. Now, Prabhupada is moving on. He's saying, in the above statement of Kapila Dev from Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual position of a pure devotee is described. And the primary characteristics of devotional service are also defined. Further characteristics of devotional service are described by Rupa Goswami with evidence from different scriptures. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhar Radha Govinda Ji Ki Jai. Jai Jagannath Jai Radha Krishna. Jai Radha. So, Rupa Goswami is describing further characteristics of devotional service with evidence from different scriptures. Well, this is the format for the entire Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. The entire format is that Rupa Goswami is defining all the different topics connected with Bhakti Rasa. He's composing different verses, but he also quotes from various shastras to substantiate that what he is telling is accepted as the conclusion of Vedic knowledge. So now here's the list. He states that there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are as follows. Now the first one, you have to understand that this list of 6, are manifested even in the very beginning phases of adopting the process of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. The first 2, then the next 2, numbers 3 and 4, they will become, those characteristics of pure devotional service will be manifested in the stage of bhav bhakti. And finally, the last 2, number 5 and 6, they will be manifested only in the stage of prema. So the first 2 are very relevant for us because this is the stage, sadhana stage. And the first characteristic is Klesh Agni. It's not telling the Sanskrit here, but Klesh Agni means, klesha means different types of sufferings. There are many categories of sufferings. It's all called klesh. So pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. And there's going to be a very deep explanation of this point just after this list. He'll begin to give an explanation, lengthy, deep explanation of each one of these characteristics. Okay? So the term used in Rupa Goswami's verse is Klesh Agni. Agni means burning. Burning to ashes, all distress conditions. And he's going to explain, where does distress arise from? There's a very deep and scientific explanation what causes klesha and distresses for the conditioned souls in this world, and how pure devotional service eradicates that distress. So if someone is doing pure devotional service, they will have full relief from all kinds of material distress. It doesn't necessarily mean that that distress does not attack on the physical level or on the mental level and so forth, but the devotee, through the execution of pure devotional service, does not experience. He does not experience the intense suffering from that, because his consciousness is absorbed in bhakti, and bhakti automatically gives that relief. We'll study that more. So the second one is called Shubhada. Shubha means auspicious. Shubhada means pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Up to the point where the jivas do not perform pure devotional service, everything prior to that in their journey in the material world is mostly inauspicious. But when one enters into the life of pure devotional service, that begins their life of all auspiciousness. These are the two characteristics in the stage of sadhana bhakti. And sadhana bhakti, which stage does sadhana bhakti go up to? From Shraddha all the way up to what? Sadhana bhakti. Yes. And asakti. Even that is still technically in the stage of sadhana. And Raganuga bhakti is also in the stage of sadhana. But then, when it enters into the higher stages of, the progressive advancement of ruchi and asakti, then it begins to be imbued with so much power from Ladini potency. From the Ladini Shakti potency, that's how ruchi is coming. Taste, attachment, all these things. But the devotee's heart, it's all described in Madhurya Kadambini in great detail. The devotee's heart starts to become very much softened and prepared, because that is necessary prior to the stage of bhav. Otherwise, the stage of bhav, it will be so overwhelming. So the devotee has to be gradually introduced. Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an example of the stage of asakti. And he says, the stage of asakti is like a dancing teacher. A dancing teacher will gradually teach the different arm and leg movements and so forth to the student, right? The different moves and the different steps and all of that, so that the student becomes acquainted and they practice, and then gradually they can do very nicely in dancing. So he says, asakti comes in this way and takes the mood of a dancing teacher for the sadhak. And how is she doing? Because deep attachment is developing more and more in the heart. And he begins to become acquainted with the spiritual reality, which is the revealing of the spiritual form, Siddhadeha. And in that stage, he gets little glimpses that are called spurtis, little glimpses, momentary glimpses of his own spiritual Siddhadeha, perfected spiritual body. So that is coming later, but that's still in the stage of sadhana. But when bhav manifests, the transcendental phenomena of bhav bhakti, which is a particle of a ray of praying entering into the heart of the devotee, then at that stage, the devotee becomes completely lifted above and beyond the material level. Then he's attained siddhi, perfection. So in that stage, he's actually a siddha bhakta. But in the stage of bhav, then he continues with his bhajan in the stage of perfection. And that gradually prepares him to attain prema. Okay, now numbers 3 and 4 are in bhav bhakti. Number 3 characteristic is pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. Automatically. If someone can perform pure devotional service, uttama bhakti, especially in that higher stage of bhav, automatically they are placed in very intense transcendental pleasure. And that's exhibited by the verse, which is the 6th verse of Sikshastakam. Which verse is that?
Nayanam Gada
Yes. Yes. Now what is the devotee praying for there? Mahaprabhu is teaching.
That my eyes will be filled with tears.
Galad Ashrudharaya. Like torrents.
Yes.
Vadanam Gadgada.
My voice will become
choked. Rudhaya Gira.
My eyes are
no. Well, that means that voice will become choked. Vadanam Gadgada Rudhaya Gira. Then Pulakaya Nichitam Vapu Kada. Because he's asking when. So Kada means when. When will my eyes be filled? When will my voice be choked? When will the hairs stand on end? Pulakaya Nichitam Vapu Kada. Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishyati. Oh, when will this take place for me? When I chant your holy names. Tava Nama Grahane Bhavishyati. So, the number 4th characteristic is Sudurlabha. That means it is pure devotional service is very rarely achieved. This is in the stage of Bhav. This is very rarely achieved within this world. Then the last two are pertaining to the stage of praying. Number 5, those in pure devotional service, they deride even the conception of liberation. So for someone to have such even a disgust that they're deriding liberation, which impersonalists, that's their entire goal. But those who are in this high stage of Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service, they give no value, no significance whatsoever to the conception of liberation. Mokshada laguta krit, that means. Laguta krit means they deride it. And finally, number 6, Krishna Karshani Sada. Krishna Akarshani Sada. Pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. And if you want to attract Krishna, nothing else will attract him. Only pure devotional service. And especially this is in the beginning stage of praying. Krishna Akarshani. Akarshani means to attract him. Sada means he's always attracted by pure devotional service. He's always attracted by that. So now, Prabhupada's explaining for this 6th item, he's saying Krishna is all attractive. He himself, that's his name, Krishna. Did you know what that means? The name Krishna? They have different meanings of the word Krishna. But Jiva Goswami breaks it down very extensively in his purport to the first verse of the Brahma Samhita. And the syllable Kri and Shna, Kri and Shna, what is the meaning of that? And different interpretations and so forth. But in a general way, the word Krishna also comes from the word Karshana or Akarshana, which means to attract. So Prabhupada simplified this, and also Gopal Guru Goswami has simplified this. If you read Gurudev's little book, Harinam Mahamantra, he gives there the various explanations and translations of the Mahamantra by different acharyas. And so, means that he is all attractive. All attractive. So Krishna is all attractive, but pure devotional service attracts even him. This means that pure devotional service is even transcendentally stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's of the first characteristic, relief from material distress. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that one should surrender unto him, giving up all other engagements. And the Lord also gives his word there, that he will protect surrendered souls from the reactions of all sinful activities. Now, which verse is that where Krishna is telling this? That one should surrender unto him, giving up all other engagements. Yes. Yes. That's right. Yeah. So Krishna is telling, give up all other engagements, dharmas. And mam ekam sharanam braja. Surrender to me alone. And then what does he say after that? Aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksha ishyami. Moksha ishyami means I'll liberate you. In exchange for your surrender to me, I will reciprocate by protecting you from all sinful reactions. Then he says, Ma suchaha, do not fear. It's a great promise by Krishna. Very great promise. So Srila Rupa Goswami says that the reactions, that the distresses from sinful activities, they are due both to the sins themselves and also to sins committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance, avidya, right? That's generally why someone commits sinful activities. But ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction, which is also sinful activities. Sinful activities are of two kinds. Those which are mature and those which are not mature. So Prabhupada is going into a whole explanation of the different 4 stages. In seed form, just about to fructify, mature, almost mature, like that. Because the sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, they are called mature. Okay? So mature means prarabdha. Prarabdha karma. So this is what's taking place currently. And the many sinful activities stored within us, for which we have not yet suffered, are considered immature, aprarabdha. So, for example, man may have committed criminal acts, but not yet been arrested for them. Now, as soon as he is detected, arrest is awaiting him. Similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distresses in the future. And then for others, which are mature, we are suffering at the present moment. In this way, there is a chain of sinful activities and their concomitant distresses, and the conditioned soul is suffering life after life due to these sins. He is suffering in the present life the results of sinful activities from his past life, and he is meanwhile creating further sufferings for his future life. Mature sinful activities are exhibited if one is suffering from some chronic disease, if one is suffering from some legal implication, if one is born in a low and degraded family, or if one is uneducated or very ugly. So what are those? These are mature sinful activities, suffering at the present. There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment. And we may be suffering in the future due to our present sinful activities. But all of these reactions to sinful deeds, they can immediately be stopped if we take to Krishna consciousness. As evidence for this, Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 19. This verse is in connection with Lord Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like a blazing fire, which can burn into ashes unlimited fuel supplied to it." So what is Krishna comparing devotional service to him? Which example is he giving? That devotional service to me is like a what? A blazing fire. We have bonfires here sometimes. They didn't inform me of the last one. I wanted to see that, but nevertheless. But last, when was it? Yeah, before when was it? It was last year. Oh, and burn into ashes, unlimited fuel supplied to it. And that bonfire, you could just keep on feeding it. It would go all night long. And now you've been raking up all the leaves and branches and everything, right? And putting it somewhere. I don't know exactly where. It looks like there's a few different piles here and there.
Some compost, some there, some...
Yeah, so, but there is some fuel waiting to be burned, right?
My father has a big pile to burn. So
Yeah. But they have to do it somewhat soon, because if it gets too dry, then it's not allowed, actually. Okay, so the purport. What is the purport? The purport is that as the blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, so devotional service to the Lord in Krishna consciousness can burn up all the fuel of sinful activities. For example, in the Gita, Arjuna thought that fighting was a sinful activity. That's the arguments that he was posing to Krishna. This is not good. This is going to be sinful. We're going to suffer from this, like that. Yes, but Krishna, he engaged him on the battlefield under his order. And so the fighting became what? Devotional service. And therefore Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reaction. You know how many millions of soldiers were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in an 18-day battle? Did you ever hear the figure? What? Oh, I thought Govinda was there. It said that there were 60 million soldiers that came from various parts of the world. 60 million. But at the end, how many were still living? Of the warriors and the soldiers? None. All the soldiers, they were all destroyed. And the Pandavas remained as the victors. And then Yudhishthira became the emperor of the world. Krishna wanted this. He wanted to reduce the burden. Do you remember in the beginning of the 10th canto? What's the opening story in the very beginning, first chapter of the 10th canto? Once the world was overburdened by demoniac military forces. Yes. And Mother Earth, Mother Bhumi, did what?
Went to Brahma to see.
Yes.
There's a song we used to sing.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that? You can sing it if you can remember the words.
Just grab the mic.
The world was overburdened by demoniac king, so Bhumi went to Brahma to see what help he could bring. And then they all went to Lord Vishnu together and prayed for him to come down and relieve the burden of all the demons. I don't remember what was.
Okay. Yeah. So she appeared in front of Lord Brahma in the form of what?
A cow.
Yes, a cow.
With tears in her eyes.
Tears in her eyes. Right. Why did she have tears in her eyes?
Because she had so much compassion for the suffering of everyone.
No, not in this context. She had tears because she was feeling very much pain, because her body is the planet, and these very heavy demoniac military forces were causing so much burden on her. So in this condition, she came with tears in her eyes to Lord Brahma and expressed that. Because any demigoddess or demigod of any planet in the universe has the right to approach Lord Brahma and to complain or to express. And Lord Brahma has to do something. So what did he do?
He said, let's go to Saitadu, where the Lord of all lords, dressed in yellow silk, lies on the ocean of milk.
That's right, yes. And what did Brahma do then? Once they arrived there, Brahma, and he was like, there was like an ocean of milk, but in the middle of the ocean was where Kiradakshai Vishnu was, but no one could see him. The average demigods, they are not given that passage that they can have direct. But Lord Brahma can at any time. And he went into an internal mystic transmission with Kiradakshai Vishnu. And then, after that, he announced to all the demigods who had accompanied him and Mother Bhumi that the Lord has told that he is very soon going to descend and take birth. And all of you demigods should also take birth in different families and so forth. So that's the beginning of the 10th canto. You remember that song, Govinda?
A little bit.
See if you and her can sing it together. Yeah, just come for a second. Well, she'll jog your memory.
Jog it. Burdened by demoniac kings, so Bhumi went to Brahma to see what help he could bring.
Oh, you forgot, huh? Well, you're going to have to teach that to the kids.
Let's go to Saitadu, where the Lord of all lords, dressed in yellow silk, lies on the ocean of milk. Let's go to Saitadu. And then it goes into Narada Muni, going to Kamsa, till Kamsa the king. Anyways, it was a whole tape.
Cool.
Is detailing the earth planet, the dynasties, the demoniac kings, the devoted kings. Everything was arranged by Krishna for his descent so that this could be enacted. The burden of the earth could be relieved, demoniac forces would be killed, and of course, don't forget, every single one of them, oh, I didn't even notice the clock, sorry. Every single one of them were liberated. Everyone who was killed on the battlefield. So this was a righteous, dharmic war, right? And so Krishna promises in the Bhagavad Gita, if you surrender to me, and that's he's promising to us also, not just to Arjuna, he's promising to every jiva, that if you just abandon all other dharmas and you just surrender to me only, mam ekam sharanam braja, then I will protect you. You will not have to fear or worry at all. You will be fully protected against any sinful reactions. Do not fear. So in this way, Rupa Goswami is now expanding upon the meaning of the first characteristic, that pure devotional service relieves one of all suffering like that. And so, the next few days, we'll be going deeper and deeper and deeper into these explanations. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Rupa Goswami Pada ki jai, Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga ki jai. Gaur Pranamani.